quiet. Hello there, and welcome to the Drax Files Radio Hour with Joe Yardley. My name is Drexter Dupre, and today we're trying something a little different. We're actually doing quite a visual experience. You may be listening to the podcast, and if you do so, then there will be a link somewhere to the video that we're shooting because we're streaming from Second Life. I figured that
Live.
we
Second
hold.
Life Live.
Oh, somebody's talking off camera. Wait a minute. I'm
Sorry.
turning the camera around. I was going all secretive. Um, so I'm here,
I
of course,
spoiled it
with Joe
again.
Yardley at some sort of sim of hers. Hi, Joe.
Hello.
And where are we right now?
We are now in the time travel laboratory. This
Aha.
is the center of the new sim of Time Portal.
Aha. I'm just going to hide the interface real quick. Um, so we're on the time portal sim, and we're
Yes.
going
My
to
new
attempt
project.
today to do a podcast where we
Ooh.
essentially have the streaming component. So we have to describe what we see. If people listen to this podcast while they're working out at the gym, which I hear most of our five listeners, about 90% of our five listeners do that. They listen
We
to
have
this.
listeners
Well,
that go to the gym.
yes, I think they work at the gym. So
All right.
they listen to the podcast.
Genius.
So we that's right. They get a discount because they're like us, overweight and living in our mom's basement.
Mother's
Okay,
basements,
I know I
yes.
should speak for myself, but anyway, so we figured we're going to do all Second Life today. We're going to ignore everything that's happening outside in the VR world because
Wow.
I heard that from some listeners that they really don't care what's happening with Oculus, and I really don't blame them. So the name of this show is called Last Sim Standing. Of course, that's a provocative title, but it is in the light of the recent announcement that a whole bunch of Sims are not doing
Hmm.
so well, may disappear, and some actually have disappeared,
Yeah.
including the University of Western Australia, which got 1 year extension, but also it was just recently announced that In Silico, one of my favorite Sims, is
Hmm.
disappearing. While all this is happening, Joe, you are purchasing a Sim, and we're standing at the entrance. Why the hell did you do this, and why did you think there was a market for what you're doing? And we're going to explore what you're doing in a second, but explain what how did you come to the suicidal decision to invest in Second Life?
Well, I'm Dutch. That
But I hear the
explains it.
Dutch are very frugal and crap.
Yes, exactly. So I've managed to run 1920s Berlin almost from day one without losing too much money. It's been paying for itself. It's even making a little profit. So I thought maybe I can try and do that again. And instead of building another time travel sort of a historical sim, I decided why not build six historical sims in one. So I'm a little bit careful here.
Hmm.
But it's also because when uh, we used to be right next to another a shopping mall sort of sim where you could buy lots of lovely vintage stuff, but that sim vanished as well. And me and my friends we were suddenly, some of us were without our shops, like Sonata Morales was suddenly left without her main store, which was pretty horrific. And no, I was left without my flagship store, and there were a few friends as well who said suddenly they didn't have a shop anymore. So I thought, you know what, let's go and risk it. We all need a new place for our shops, and people who come to 1920s Berlin really enjoy, shopping as well, and they want to perhaps put on something else than one of our freebies. So I thought, why not? And I had a few ideas, and people were very excited about the ideas, and so we just went ahead and did it.
Great. So this is all about shopping. That's awesome. Wow. Wow, and I
Not
thought it was about
just, not
culture.
just.
Hold on, Joe. Before we continue, we need to also, like I said, people may be listening to this just on the audio version, so they don't know what we're talking about or where we are. They can, of course, switch to the YouTube video at any point in time. But let's describe where we are. I mean, we are basically this is sort of the spawn point, the starting point, right?
Mhm. Yes.
And if you
This
were
is
to
like
describe it, what do we see?
this is like a laboratory built in by some sort of crazy genius who who managed to build time portals into other times and places. So we've got a bunch of strange, complicated machines, and in the walls around us are these mysterious, massive portals, massive, huge, rotating rings of pure gold that create a hole through time and space. But there's something wrong because the monitors above these portals show an error message, and the year that you're going to, it keeps changing all the time. So there's you're not going to an exact year. You're going to some sort of zone where several years have been strangely combined,
So I
which I
would go
thought
into
was a
this
pretty
machine
good.
in the middle. Is that the deal? Here's like, what is
No, that's
this?
where you arrive.
Ah,
That's
that's
where you
where I
arrive.
arrive, right?
These portals, those are the time machines. That's
Ah,
the
yeah.
hole that you go through and end up in a different time.
Okay, so in one I see some sort of brownstone. What do I see here? Oh, I see cars. They kind of remind me of the 50s, maybe? No?
Well, we've got two time zones, and if you look at the clock above them,
Oh,
the
I
little
see it, the
monitor, they'll
clock,
tell
yeah.
you where you're going.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is switching all the time. Like this reminds me of a
Yeah, yeah.
film.
There's
I know. I mean, I know, Joe. You're not so familiar with the decade of the '80s and the '70s. Oops, where did she go? She's still here. Oh, there she is.
I'm
Um,
over here.
this reminds me of a movie. These flipping displays of the years. So this one goes between 1927, 1936, 41. Then there's this other one, 60, 57. Ever heard of this movie Back to the Future?
Yes, I have.
But don't
It's
you
one of
hate
my
the 80s?
favorites.
But you
I
hate
lo-
the 80s.
I hate the 80s, but I love some of the movies. If you look behind you, there's a flux capacitor on the wall.
A flux capacitor. Here is a flux capacitor on the wall. Oh
Of
my
course, how
good
else can
lord.
you get your time machine to work? And there's a
Right.
few other little clues hidden all around the sim, in connection to famous time travel movies and books and things like that.
Right. The best book, of course, is H.G. Wells' The Time Machine.
Yes,
Right? That's the
absolutely.
mother of all time travel
It
stories.
is. It is. Yeah. Well, we've got one of those machines as well. Very well hidden.
You mean this desk?
No, 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 no. H.G. Wells's time machine looks completely different, as you
I don't
should
know
know.
how. Well, yeah, but I
It's
have.
very well described in a book. I thought you read books,
Ah, you caught me. I do read books.
but you just not very well.
I never said that I read them cover to cover.
You just put them on the shelf
No, I
to impress visitors.
I know that it was described as some sort of a vehicle where you sit down and then you pull this lever.
Yeah, it's a very
S-
comfortable chair with rings around it and
So
things like
you're
that.
saying we might actually encounter this machine somewhere where we're going.
No, because we left it back in the Victorian zone, and that machine hasn't not yet isn't working yet.
So right now you have one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight portals, and two seem to be
Yes,
open. Oh, wait a minute. Here is
yes,
one, a small portal,
mm-hmm.
some sort
Yes.
of a.
We're gonna have a few small portals that will teleport you directly to a historical sim elsewhere. And
Ah,
we're picking a few very nice ones. I'm not telling you which ones yet,
a partner sim.
but yes, anyone who goes to this time machine laboratory will be able to to travel to our time zones, as we call them, but also to some of the best historical themed sims in Second Life.
The last couple of shows we were, of course, speculating about Sansar and stuff like that, and people don't know what's happening in Sansar, and people are speculating
Hmm.
based on snapshots. Um, and I ask this question all the time. Obviously, we don't know when Sansar will open, when it will be functional, how functional will it be, and all that kind of stuff.
And
Um,
when they let us in.
right. So let's just say, basically, what you're doing here is that also maybe sort of going against the stream of people, because I hear it all the time, like, oh my God, Sansar's coming, I'm going to stop investing in putting money in, and work, or both, into
Well, I
Second Life.
if you know, as far as I can see, it's going to be at least another year, probably two, three, even more, before I can do anything like what I do in Second Life
Hmm.
in Sansa. And until then, I still want to have lots of fun and just do what I want to do. And even if tomorrow Sansa suddenly opens early and I can do every single thing I can do in Second Life, then all this is just experience.
Right.
It's just going to prepare me for Sansa. So I don't consider anything I do in Second Life a waste of money because it's entertainment.
And
You
may
watch television, and you watch all the VHS videos I bought when I was younger and watched. I then replaced them by CD-ROMs and things like DVDs and things like that. So,
hmm.
but I was entertained. Doesn't mean I was wasting my time.
I
Well, I
also would
did,
like
but that's a
I
different
also would
story.
like to add, because the current VR coverage, and that's a criticism we always get at the podcast, is that we cover basically tech specs and stuff like that, and while that is important, it's not everything. I couldn't agree more, because what really counts is the story, and the way we tell stories, and thankfully that has not yet been automated, or maybe at some point AIs will get to a point where they generate uh, stories and the visuals and everything sort of automatically. But right now, we need to tell the stories ourselves in whatever medium, and that, of course, is a transferable skill. If you run a sim, if you make a film, or in any way, other shape or form. So, folks, um, don't sit there, procrastinate, make something. Okay, before we delve
Exactly.
into this portal, let me just put the word out. Let me do a quick housekeeping, and then also put the fact that we're streaming onto the other social realms. You guys are listening or watching the Drax Files Radio Hour with Joe Yardley. We're at the Time Portal Sim, and we would like to thank our sponsors. One of them is the Time Portal Sim.
Well, hey,
And that's how we're going to play it from now on. So if you sponsor us, we're going to give you a 1 hour infomercial for free, but you're going to pay. No, of course not. We're not doing we're not doing infomercials. Um, so you can contact us, and you can get information about how to support the show. We go live every Saturday now on Stitcher. You can subscribe on Stitcher. You can subscribe on iTunes. You can you can send us a message. You can send us news scoops. And as we mentioned earlier, this broadcast, this show is called Last Sim Standing, and that's of course a provocative title, um, commenting on some of the losses that we had to suffer. Do you know any other sims that closed down? I mean, we have Insilico is reportedly going going away. We had University of Western Australia 1 year extension.
hmm well, none specifically, but I was when I'm while I'm preparing for this sim, I have to go out into the world and look for for people who create wonderful stuff.
Hmm.
And I think that this happens to most people in Second Life who go out a bit more outside a bit more than I do. But so many of my landmarks are empty, which is
Hmm.
sad.
Hmm. And we, what's the see if you could? I mean, of course, that stuff is never really,
But on
you can't really
but on the
compare
other
why some
hand,
stuff
yeah,
survives. Yeah, no, go ahead.
true. But on the other hand, there were also two creators in Second Life who were making 1950s stuff, who had sort of left Second Life, and when I found them, they told me they were just about to come back again. So that was really interesting, and they're getting all excited again. So
So that's from
that's
that's
interesting as
50s
well.
50s themed or 50s also
Yes,
shops.
1950s and 60s themed shopkeepers, creators.
Mm,
That scene was seemed like it was a little bit dead in Second Life. I couldn't find many really cool 50s Sims anymore, and I
mm.
really looked. And there were just one or two, and I really used to enjoy those because that's one of the few places I go to in Second Life besides 1920s. Because when I was a teenager in the 80s and 90s, I was a rockabilly myself, so
Mm.
I still feel that love for that era. And there was very little in Second Life, so I'm really glad that we now got this 50s zone here.
Rockabilly really is also something where I think, and that's interesting because a guy working here at a local store, I was just talking to him about the rockabilly, local rockabilly scene, and he says, oh, all those clubs are closing down, and we do have sometimes bands come through, but it's so little, and sometimes the bands don't stop in town, because there's too little audience. And I go like, dude, Second Life, go online and be part of a global sort of rockabilly scene, and maybe people can play live and stuff like that. Um, all right, so we're live, and I was going to mention that Mont Saint Michel is of course also a
Yes,
sim
that's
that
the
that
one.
closed down. Yeah, and people have been
That was
complaining,
sad.
or people have been mentioning that it seems fairly random that Linden Lab is seemingly supporting random sims and helps them. I actually
It's
couldn't
probably
think
not
of one.
random.
Yeah, but I don't. I mean, do you know of anyone that they actually actively rescued? Because University of
The
Western Australia,
the
that's a
the
private
cruise
thing.
liner.
Oh,
I think
that's
the cruise
right.
liner. That one. They saved that one 2 years ago or a year ago,
Yeah,
and there are now two Sims that have vanished or are about to vanish that I would absolutely put right up there or even above the cruise liner. So
yeah.
I don't know who at Linden Lab decides these things, but I hope they're listening and I hope that they're realizing that here are two Sims, Mon Cher Michel and In Silico, that both are quite essential and quite important, I
Yeah.
reckon. If there's any money left in the tip jar of Linden Lab,
I
throw it
would
their way.
say, guys, if you're listening to this and you know a sim that's closing, or if you have a sim that's closing, contact Mambo Moraine in Second Life, Phil Toma in real life, who worked with me on the last Drax Files in 360, and go in there. And I'm going to contact Mambo as soon as we're getting off this broadcast to go into In Silico this weekend and film 360 in silico and just put it out there. And I think that would be, we should really start. Maybe people can chip in, and we could just rescue the Sims in the sense, for
Well,
prosperity.
they didn't want any more fundraising or donations because they tried that before and they didn't feel really comfortable about it. And the way the things are going now, they'd have to go and do all that again in a year or maybe in a couple of months.
Yeah,
So the only solution for them would be, I reckon, if suddenly everyone wanted to go live there and open shops there, because I'm assuming that's their main source of
that's right.
income,
No, I also meant like maybe we
or
can.
Linden Lab just stepping up. I
In
think that's the
silico, I
best.
would say is something that Linden Lab should definitely support. I was thinking, Mambo Moraine needs a little bit of monies to justify his time to filming the 360, because the post production is really still labor intensive. So maybe for like a half hour broadcast, you might need 7 to 8 hours stitching this together. So like if we just do like a fly through in silico, it could be an entire day in post production for that. Um, but let's walk through the portal here. So we have two
Yes.
portals that seem to
Yeah.
be active, and of course the tiny portal
Yes.
is a partner sim, and I of course know which one that is. I mean, you got to be really
You do?
dumb. Come on, everybody knows
Which
what
one
that
is it
is.
then?
No, I'm not gonna say. Let's let the listeners decide. Actually, listeners, if you don't watch this now, then you can't decide. But if you're watching the broadcast, then you know exactly what sim this is, don't you? What sim is
I doubt.
this?
I doubt it. I doubt you know.
I do.
You don't.
I do. Okay, I'll say
You
it is.
do.
Oh, maybe it's not the one I'm thinking. You think?
I'm sure it's not the one you think it is.
So it's not Pfaffenthal.
Nine.
It's not
But I will
Pfaffenthal.
be adding that. It's not. I will be adding that as well, though, if they allow me to.
So we can't teleport right now. It's kind of a little teaser where you pitch it to them. Become a partner, so we can put you
Well,
on this.
actually, that's just the first setup for the one that's already on board.
Hmm. Joe, what's also interesting, this is a completely random thought, but I had a Twitter conversation about some of my friends from the VR community was saying like, wouldn't it be cool to have like a VR conference in VR without traveling physically? And I go like, whoa, there is a novel thought. We've never seen
Imagine
that
that.
before. Yes, and so well, we should have the next Second Life community convention at the time portal. But let's go through the portal. Which
Absolutely.
portal we go through?
Yeah. Well, the one on the right goes to 1950s and 60s, and that one isn't yet finished. We're opening that on Saturday,
Hmm.
so I'm not going to let you look around there yet.
Saturday when we
So
go
that's
to air actually, and maybe if people catch this the following week, this might already be live.
yes,
Okay, so let's go through this one here.
yeah. Let's go to the 1920s, 30s, and 40s one.
I'll do that in mouse look,
Oh,
just for the occasion. So I go over
let me just
here.
unlock it.
Oh, you have the key to the time portal.
Of
That's
course I do.
tricky.
Shh, top
So what
secret.
do
All
we
right, here we
see?
go.
So we see a brownstone. Oh my god, and I see these waves
Come on
coming, and
through.
now I'm walking through, and here I am. And I hear a train. Do I hear some jazz? No.
I don't think so.
We need jazz here, that's for sure. I'm sorry, I don't want to be a
Well, the,
critic,
the,
but I am.
what do you mean? You hear music outside? These people have manners. They're not going to play loud music at night.
Yeah, okay, you're right. This seems to
We're
be
walking.
an
Yeah,
evening situation here.
it is now. We've got a daylight setting that moves and
Oh,
changes. So,
that's right. We're taping this actually in the evening, our local time.
yeah, but we've just got a regular day cycle,
Hmm.
so it will change.
Hmm. Awesome. And we're completely immersed in the 30s. So this is so what do we see? Can you explain to our listeners
Yeah. Well,
who are blind?
mhm. Well, we're walking through a street somewhere in America, probably New York. It is the 1920s, 30s, or 40s because the time machine has an error, so it sort of mixes things together, which I
And
thought
that's
is
the
a good
thing to
excuse.
remember, listeners. So the time machine
Yeah,
mixes things
it's broken.
together, right? So
Yes.
it's not an accurate,
No.
in that sense,
It
authentic representation of one particular year. It is in a way an artist's type of what artists do is through their lens a a collage of things of sorts.
Yeah, because that's also that made things a little bit easier for us. This is not a role playing sim, although
Hmm.
if you want to go on a role play, go for it. People don't have to change their clothes. They can be unrealistic looking avatars, such as yourself, or furries. But we also want to have the freedom here that we do not have in 1920s Berlin, where you can have a 1940s fashion show one day and a 1920s fashion show the other day, or you can have a 1920s party, and then the other day a USO World War II themed, party with all sorts of things. We want to have a little bit more freedom here, and also it allows, of course, our shopkeepers to sell things for more from more than one era.
And I, of course, see posters of the famous flaperettes. I know Dora Duchamp personally quite
Doesn't
well.
everyone?
Right,
Yeah.
Dora, very, very sort of a persona that is a famous person in that scene. So the
Hmm.
flaperettes they play shows here, I suppose.
Yeah, I
And
hope so. We've got a theatre for them, and we're going to invite them, and they're looking forward to it. So that's going to be fun. We also, a couple of days ago, opened a Chinese backstreet sort of nightclub,
oh, that's what we
which was
just
absolutely
passed here,
lovely.
right?
Yes, we just walked past there. Yeah, that was really nice
And
with
we can.
Shanghai Lily performing on stage.
So you know what? This is almost like it's almost a little bit. You know what this reminds me of? This
No.
newfangled thing called virtual reality, where you feel a sense of presence, where you feel kind of immersed. You know,
Mm-hmm.
is that kind of the purpose of this thing? This is awesome, Joe. I love it. So now we're in this back alley Chinese nightclub, and here's a lonely microphone on stage for any type of shows or maybe stand-up comedy, Chinese stand-up comedy maybe. The mood is very somber. I hear a little
So
bit
this
of
is a really
single
sort of
note.
Chinatown backstreet club, and we had a really great party a few days ago with
Yeah.
Shanghai Lily and people dancing and things like that.
Who's Shanghai Lily?
Have you gone mute?
Oh, I got muted.
You lost your voice.
I lost my voice. Hold on, guys. I lost my voice. I lost
I can't hear you,
my
Drax.
voice.
Not sure if you're
I
talking.
know.
Oh, you poor thing. Well,
One sec.
finally.
I gotta
Finally, I
see.
have the show all to myself. I see a white dot above
Keep
your head.
talking. Okay, let's see if we're still live
Go on,
here.
try again. Or we could just go outside. It's probably a parcel thing. Modern technology, people. See, we didn't have these
Okay,
problems in the 30s.
right. There was no voice. Nobody had a voice in the 30s. Ah, here we go. Yeah, that was an issue of the parcel. I was still, my voice was still heard on the stream, but not in
All
world.
right, there we go.
Yeah, yeah. You're right. In the 30s, 40s, there was no problem with voice because the minorities didn't have one, including the Chinese. All right, let's go over here.
Yes, this is our big club. This is the calendar club.
The calendar
Where we
club
have,
looks very
yeah.
familiar to this. The this lettering reminds me of the Cotton Club.
No, they had a different kind.
They
The
did
original one, anyway.
good, and we see a whole bunch of cars out here. Is this all?
Yeah, this.
This amazes me still with SL. I mean, we're in here, and I'm assuming these cars are they pre-made? Are they pre-made cars?
No, these are mesh.
They look absolutely fantastic.
Aren't they great? Yeah,
Yeah,
the two ladies who made these cars are also selling them in the sim,
yeah. So
and
we
I
have.
love them. I mean, these are the light versions, but if you get the full version, you can open the hood, you can open the doors, you can look at the engine. It's a perfect detail. Dashboard is fantastic.
Let's go into the club. While we're looking at this,
The door.
for our listeners, here
Did
we
you?
have finally some music here.
The viewers probably saw it.
I'll turn it down a little bit. Um, so here you got shows and everything. Are you going to rent these out too? I mean, we were just talking about In Silico, and In Silico also, to my knowledge, In Silico is going away. To my knowledge, they sustain themselves through renting shops and renting to, well, renters. I mean, what is the plan to keep this thing afloat?
Well, the main financial part of this sim will be rent from the shopkeepers and from tenants, because there are also a few apartments here and there. But clubs like these, for instance, this one here, people who we know, we invite to organize events here, and they can do that for free. So if we know of a cool 1920s, 30s, or 40s DJ, or someone want to organize a party, we welcome them here to organize an event.
Somebody is coming in, and his name is Arden Schwartzman. I've heard that name
Hello.
before. He has a picker-upper.
Hello.
Hello, Arduin. Here's Arduin Schwartzman, and we didn't plan this. From
Hey,
Warbach. Hey, Arduin. So, what do you think? You
did I
went?
walk into something?
Yes, you walked
You
into a
did?
live broadcast. For God's sakes!
Oh,
No,
oops.
this is great. No,
I was
welcome.
I was only going to show me my brand new pussy grabber.
Ew.
Jesus
Can
Christ!
I can I grab yours?
If you come near me with that thing, I'll shoot you.
Oh no, I'll grab Drax's pussy.
Oh, he doesn't mind.
This is Joe. This is a prime example of.
There, I got it.
This is something you have to watch the broadcast for. Our listeners on the audio stream only, they won't enjoy this as much as we do because Arden had sort of a
Poor
picker
cat.
upper, where people that are have a hard time sort of picking stuff up from the floor, like an extended picker upper with a mechanism that they can operate the claw from, and he was threatening to grab my you know what, as Donald Trump says. And there was a cat now in this thing now. But Joe, you said earlier, and this is interesting, Arduin is certainly no griefer. He's a good friend of ours. He's also always making the fabulous thumbnails to this show, among many other things. But
Mm-hmm.
now, you had very strict rules with 1920s Berlin.
Yeah.
And you just
Oh,
said
are
that
we?
that here you don't have them, so you have relaxed
Nope.
clothing rules, right?
Yeah,
But
absolutely. There are pretty much only three rules that we have: is that don't be naked,
mhm.
don't be a Nazi, and no, don't be a pain in the backside. Just don't bother other people.
Now here's the thing, and
So
we had that with Insilico as well. There was an issue when Insilico was taken offline because there was issues involving the original owner from Insilico and a dispute. I don't want to go into it. There's plenty of information out there. But how are you planning to deal with griefers? And we talk about this a lot on the show because I think we agree that the new VR crowd may be a little bit naive when they're building
mhm.
open worlds, how to actually deal with that issue. How are you planning to deal with it here on this
well,
sim?
we're going to do it the same way as we have been doing for the last 7 years in 1920s Berlin, and that's we have a bunch of admins, and we have people just looking around, and if someone reports it, we'll deal with it. And most of the time, some of us are online anyway, keeping an eye on things, and if need be, we come and boot people into the next decennium.
So you have to, but it's an effort that you need manpower for it, right? This cannot be automated.
No, you can't, because there's no way for any kind of computer system that we've got in Second Life to know if someone is misbehaving. We don't have some sort of device that says the second someone starts shooting guns, they get ejected and kicked or whatever.
Since Arduin
Uh,
appeared out of nowhere, let me ask him a question. Arduin, you don't know this yet. That this show, when it comes Saturday on the podcast, is going to be named "The Last Sim Standing," because
Uh,
we've been talking in the context of some of these other Sims disappearing. What is
like
the
in Silico
right?
that I read. Yeah.
And Mont Saint Michel and University
Yes.
of Western Australia has lost some funding through the university. They have another year. What should Linden Lab do? What should the owner do? Do you have any magic bullets that you can shoot off at us? How to solve this
Yeah.
bleeding?
I don't know if it's bleeding or just a healthy turnover of old technology being replaced by new, because they were pretty old places already, I think. And I'm not, especially Mont Saint Michel was all
mhm.
based on old prims. It's sort of it's a monumental thing, that's for sure. So
So, in
I
other
was
words, you're advocating, like, if you come, let's say, to my hometown of Munich and the Frauenkirche, for example, you go there and like, oh my God, that shit's old. Let's tear it down and build a Planet Hollywood on top of it. Is that what you're saying?
well, Yeah, well, it depends a bit. Those things have to be maintained too, right? And that costs money. And eventually, if the general public loses interest, I think we're doing pretty good here in Europe, maintaining old buildings.
Yeah.
Anyway, you should go to Japan. They don't value
Yeah.
old stuff at all. They just tear everything
Yeah,
down.
or America.
In America,
Yeah,
to a certain
I don't know.
extent too.
Well, yeah,
They're learning. They're learning at the moment,
yeah.
slowly, but up
But
to a
It's
decade or.
I
yeah,
guess so. My sort of nonsensical, cynical comparison between the real world and the digital world. I was just thinking maybe there should be some sort of a preservation society that somehow preserves
yeah.
Sims. But I mean, it
I
goes
would
towards the
like that.
fact that yeah, but the running costs, the way Linden
Hmm.
Lab handles the costs, are just huge.
Well, there could be some sort of council of monuments, virtual monuments, that could be partially sponsored by Linden Lab, of course, but also by people just donating. And every year they can perhaps pick, pick a sim, or they can have a couple of sims that they decide to keep as they are,
Yeah,
for old time's sake.
yeah, and I would so you'd have to have some sort of fund for that
Yes.
too.
Yes, and I think that I think Linden Lab should decide to adopt, maybe every year adopt one or something like that, or maybe just the ones that need
Memorable
adopting.
hallmarks. Yeah,
Yeah, because
and
these Sims, they're not just fun and we don't have nice memories of them, but they are. Even at this old age, Mont Saint Michel is still a stunning looking sim. It's still one of
yeah,
those
even with
places
old
that,
technology, that's for
yeah, and
sure.
it impresses visitors, and it gives Second Life good publicity.
But there is cultural
And
value to it. I mean that's sort of where
mhm,
my comment and you're right, Ardo. And I mean,
Yeah,
the different countries in the world, they deal with stuff differently. I just came back today actually from a tour through all these castles like Neuschwanstein. We were in Würzburg
hmm
Palace. We were in
there's a
Rothenburg.
Neuschwanstein in Second Life too.
No, and actually, Markus Breuer, who was on the show, he informed me that he built a Neuschwanstein back in I think 2006. It's long gone. I don't think there is one
Oh,
currently. If you want to look real
that would
quick,
be
that'd be
pretty.
great. But Fam Nutra, aka Markus Breuer in real life, said that his was long gone. So it's amazing when you see these castles in real life, and I think we have to look at the digital world
mhm.
in the same way. You know
But
what? We should
yeah, but
contact
some of these,
archive.org. Archive.org
yeah,
is from,
maybe we could download them.
Yeah.
yeah,
But
Well,
it's not just, of course.
concerning these landmarks that may be worthwhile preserving on the one hand, and the overhead costs for them on the other, there's a lot of empty and unused
yes.
land out there, especially mainland. Uh, they're all Sims and they're all up and running, but there's no one visiting them, or they're just bloody ugly, which and a combination
Hmm.
thereof. And I'm just wondering whether Linden Lab could weed
Ah,
out some of the unused stuff that's all running and rattling and consuming energy,
that's a good
all
idea.
for nothing, and trade it
Yeah,
in
that
to use those resources for these landmarks.
there
That
are absolutely Sims out there that are completely abandoned by their owners, and these
Yeah,
are probably people who don't even realize that they're still paying tier, or they're one of those early people who
I want
joined
to
up
be that
and got land
rich.
for free.
yeah. So on the one hand, you've got these beautiful things that disappear, and on the other hand, there's a lot of ugly stuff out there that's sitting there all for nothing.
Hmm.
But of
That's a
course,
good point.
part of the responsibility is also with the people who run it, because if
Yeah,
an idiot like me can do it, you'd expect, sometimes I can't see how things go for other Sims. I don't know what their problems are, of course, but there are so many other ways. For instance, Patreon, is that how you spell it? Patreon?
Patreon or Patron
Patreon?
or Patreon, yes.
hmm
Patreon, yes. Ade Sid just mentioned that in the chat of the video. And I started a supporters idea in my sim where people have these, they pay and they get a few extra sims, extra prims to use in their apartment, and have these website. I mean, I remember, I'm not going to name any names, but there was a sim that was about to vanish, and I decided to go check it out, and there wasn't even a tip sign at the entrance. And as far as I can remember, every sim has a tip donation sign at the entrance. This is our tier, help us pay. They didn't have a website. They weren't on Facebook. They weren't on Twitter. And sometimes you can't help thinking, what have they done themselves to try and, make this place work?
Yep. Yep. Then you can't help them in that regard. Absolutely.
No, I
Eh,
mean, just building it won't help, won't make it a success.
But let me, because we're on this subject, it's so fascinating. Then let me read the statement from the In Silico blog, because In Silico, to me, again, I mean, you mentioned it's old. Yeah, it was built 2007, 2008, but it's still in its immersiveness. It is just absolutely stunning. I mean, I want to see the VR crowd with their, you know, very high quality render engines create something with that impact that In Silico has, where the visual, call it inconsistencies or whatever, or lower res render restrictions, they don't have the impact on the enjoyment, right? I mean, that's at least my opinion. And then a lot of stuff that is super visual eye candy just really doesn't have the impact. Let me read from the In Silico website the announcement that they call here Fade to Black. In Silico had a tough road ahead of itself after the loss of Skills and a 2-week lockout. Skills Hacks is, of course, the founder of In Silico and the main account holder, in the sense that he is on the account, and when he was locked out, he or she, um, that of course caused some issues, because the renters also pay him and all that kind of stuff. While we were able to float on generosity, that cushion has run out. Sadly, our primary source of income have never fully recovered. It's not any one thing, but a combination of losses that have slowly eroded away. Malls are drying up, skills sales are disappearing, fewer long-term residential rentals. Suffice it to say that there has been a growing shortfall, and up until now we've been making up the difference out of pocket. The shortage this month will be substantial, and unfortunately we're not in position to keep covering the difference. And Abius, who is posting this, goes on to say that the choice was between downsizing or closing it altogether. And after a lot of discussion, soul searching, we opted for the latter. Basically, close it down. It's a hard choice for us, he goes on to say, and not one that we've come to lightly, even though it might be possible to survive as just two Sims. The technical aspects of that were daunting. So he closes in. Perhaps as a sign of the times, the state of things in general, or our age and reputation have brought us to this point. Maybe we should have dropped a couple of reasons from the start. We have chosen to come to a close with In Silico. And as I said in my previous goodbye love letter to In Silico during the lockout, we have had some good times, even some great times. 9 years worth of stories that will continue. I couldn't ask for anything more than that as a legacy. So they are closing November 17th, and he says, please no donation. So I want to add, and then I want to get your take on it. And it's interesting. The show develops. We wanted to visit your beautiful sim, but now we're talking about we're not talking. We're talking about the demise of everything. Um, when isn't this also an issue of just an overwhelming abundance of choices how to spend your time online? I mean, I guess Arden mentioned it as, or I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like a natural readjustment, kind of. Is that the deal here? And how will that impact Sansar? And it's not even open yet. Maybe there will be
Well,
no interest.
but it is just like with television shows. There comes a time when it's run its course, and it can still be as good as it was during the first episode. But people, they've been watching it for 7 seasons, and they think, right, okay, I'm going to move on. I want to do something else. So sometimes the story just ends.
It's a bit
But
like 40 Towers or
Yeah.
The young ones. I mean, if
Yeah,
they
well,
would have gone on
but
for seasons more, they wouldn't
well,
be as
they both
legendary
could have done a
anymore.
few more seasons.
Yeah, but
Maybe
but
one
I
or
Could
would,
have.
two, but
okay, but I would argue. I mean, this is not a bad comparison, but I would argue this is a place where you can write your own stories, and I think the stories are as fresh. I mean, it's a physical place where there is no um, you're not forced to
Well,
adopt any type of
yeah.
story. You can kind of
Well, you are
concoct your own.
in my sim. See, that I can only look at things from my perspective, and
Hmm.
I've got a sim that we are have a very narrow subject. We've chosen a country, we've chosen a city, we've even chosen a year. For the last 7 years, we've been reliving 1929.
Hmm.
So people have very little freedom. They have to be realistic. They have to dress a certain way, but still they keep coming. I can't get rid of them. We've got people living in this place who've been here for 7 years, since day one almost. So it is very difficult, and I think that's different for every single sim, to find out what makes it go. What is the thing that makes it work? And I think in my sim it is pure the community of people that, they've been living here and they still enjoy after years coming to the local pub and meeting their friends and having a chat, because we don't have battles, we don't have exciting things to fly around to and shoot at each other. There's it is a very regular daily life that we recreate, and yet somehow it really works.
So
So
you're
it's
talking
it's
about,
very
of course,
difficult to say.
you have a very micro niche that is successful. But I will also want to
Yeah.
talk about, because it just occurred to me, and interestingly enough, the next Drex files that I'm started to work on right now is to a large extent about the event phenomenon. So the event phenomenon in Second Life is what I mean by phenomenon is that a lot of the sales of items are happening during events. The arcade, collaborate. I mean, there is any number of them, and a lot of people have complained that you cannot survive. People don't visit the stores anymore, even very successful brands, but they actually go to these events and then they shop until they drop. So in this blog post from the In Silico website by Abius, he says that the sales are drying up, and In Silico was not all about sales. There was a big mall, which was very cool, of course, catering to that kind of cyberpunk genre, but including other stuff. But obviously, I was gonna just, you know, maybe this also has to do with the proliferation of this event stuff. What do you think, Arden? Do you know about this event stuff? Are you a shopper?
I know some events I go to, uh, to get a new outfit once in a while. But
Like just
you
now,
mean
you
like
actually have a
the
nice outfit.
arcade or the men's department or
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
I mean for men there's not much around relatively compared to women's outfits, so there's little choice for me, so I keep track of a few things.
Ah, you guys really don't go out much. You don't even know about the gotcha phenomenon. That's insane. People make money on the
I
Oh, I know
do,
secondary
about
I
market.
that.
do. I've even made gotchas for the arcade for several seasons.
We are
Working at
planning one for
RP,
Time
so
Portal.
And there's people who
oh,
make
oh, that's
money on the
nice.
secondary market of gotcha. But do you guys
Yeah,
think,
very
like, I mean, is
much.
that something that
Oh
you've heard, or
yes, yeah.
that you think that really the normal, quote unquote, normal business of Second Life has really suffered from these events, and that you just can't make a living anymore with an old-fashioned shop?
I don't know. I mean, if I want something, the first place I look is Marketplace, and it's not, and if I can see the object I'm buying in world, I go and check it out. I'm not going to a kaja sale or whatever you call it because I want something. I hate kajas, but sometimes I need something from them.
Yeah.
So
They've got some great decorations. So.
yeah, a few of the items here are from Kachas, Gotchas, whatever. But yeah, it's very complicated. I think that perhaps one of the problems is that people, shopping has to be fun, and I think that if you're into vintage and retro, coming to a place like this, the shopping is part of your visit,
And
part
it's
of the
the
fun.
same with
And
Insilico. It's with
yeah,
Insilico
you know,
was
if
the
you want
same.
science fiction stuff, that is the place to be, I reckon.
Oh, here's
Look, I've got
Arden
a
with.
nice rare gotcha here.
Okay, describe it for the
Oh,
people who are just listening to the audio version of this. What do you have in your hands now, Arden?
It's a rare gotcha that was for sale a few years ago. It's a
ooh,
little robot called Zerbert. It's a retro 80s toy, and you can press its belly. And it's going to make pull
Ooh,
faces and make sounds,
ooh, you can press it. So,
and it
uh,
can even be dangerous.
what do you guys think when we talk about the issues of Sims disappearing? What do we know about Sansar? We, we the show is we have a few minutes left of
very
the show.
little.
I know we know nothing
Do they
about
have
Sansar.
Sims at all? Actually, is the sensor have the same sim concept as Second Life
That
with
is
two
now the question.
56 by 256 regions?
That's not the question. And the question is, and we know a little bit from Ebbe Altberg, the CEO of Linden Lab, that land might actually be free. So if land is
Mm-hmm.
free and it's not an issue to have as much land as you want,
That's going to be really good for for business, because
really?
that way, yeah, of course, because if you have a shop, you can build a massive super mega store, and you can res every single thing you've built. You create it, and people can go to your shop and actually see the stuff and buy it, and you don't need vendors and all these things, which is going to make shopping a lot more fun. But on the other hand, creating these things may be a lot more difficult, because it's been getting more difficult in Second Life itself. So it's
Yeah, as
it's tricky, but
technology evolves, it's you need more time.
but not having to pay rent for a shop is good, because
Mm.
that means you can have a big shop, but every time someone opens another sim and says, "Would you like a shop in my sim?" you can say, "Yeah, sure," because it will probably be very low rent, because they don't have to pay
Yeah.
rent either.
Okay, so
But
the
so
whole.
there's no rents for land. What is the catch if you can get free land in
There's going to be a
Sansar?
tax on sales.
That's right.
So
That's their
if
revenue
Okay,
model. The revenue
like
Linden Labs.
marketplace.
Yes, Linden Labs revenue model will be a tax on transactions. But now, will this also solve issues like Sims disappearing? Obviously, I think it will, because you don't have the pressure of this incredibly crazy high tier. You know, the
yeah,
tier is.
absolutely.
Remember the guy who ran for office, some office, or was it mayor in New York City with the slogan, "The tier is too damn high"? No, he ran for
But
president 4 years ago. No,
Well, I don't know.
wait, I
The,
gotta
the
look
only
this up.
reason,
The rent is
the
too
only
damn high.
reason, the only reason I started this sim was because I could get a grandfathered region. If I had to pay full tier for this region, it would not have happened.
Mm.
So, being able to have an affordable land is extremely important. But, my shopkeepers still have to pay rent to make sure that this place can, survive.
All right, the rent is too damn high. Since I mentioned it, we'll link it on the podcast. The rent is too damn high is a political party active in the state of New York that has nominated the candidates for mayor of New York City 2005 and 2009. The leader is Jimmy McMillan.
2005.
Yeah, the rent is too damn
Wasn't that
high.
Bloomberg?
No, no. It's there's some funny videos with Jimmy McMillan, the founder of the Rant is Too Damn High party, on YouTube. When
Oh,
you're done listening to the broadcast, you can listen to that. We have a few minutes left, and Arden completely distracted us, and we completely changed. Oh, Michelle
yeah. I'm
Lecron is
sorry for
on our
intruding because
podcast.
you have
Sorry,
me
on
on
our
your map.
live
So.
stream. Right, you see me on the map. Michelle Lecron, who abandoned us for high fidelity, is watching us on the YouTube screen. Hi, Michelle. Um, let's look at the rest of the sim, Joe, and then wrap up the podcast
Yep.
and the live stream. Arjun, you may follow us. You may learn something about the 40s.
I'll follow quietly, and I'll keep my robot shut up too.
Take the pussy grabber, just in case we encounter some street animal.
By the front door.
So where are we
There's
going,
another
Joe?
little.
Tell me.
Yeah. Just thought you'd. I like that little gadget there by the door.
Oh, is there a gadget by the door?
By the door. Look at yeah.
I'm looking.
There you
Oh,
go.
there's a hoverboard by the door.
There you go.
There is
That's a kid
something
like that.
from the 80s. I love that.
Yeah. Because this is a place where time travelers hang out, and sometimes they forget something.
Yeah. Not an orange curtain from the 70s or some piece of plastic. It's too bad.
So as you can see, we've got some of the best historical creators in Second Life.
This is really cool.
Furniture, cars, everything. We've been looking really hard for people who make fantastic stuff.
Keep talking because I have to change something in my um,
All right.
preferences. I just realized from the 360 project.
But
Oh
you're
no,
wearing a massive face light.
no.
You
And
are
again,
though. So ugly.
people who are just tuning in, contact Mambo Moraine and Ardo and Schwartzman built the camera. If you have a sim that is dying, Mambo Moraine may come in and shoot your sim in 360 to help us survive at least on YouTube.
Face lights are
So go ahead,
Satan.
Joe.
Yeah, face lights are Satan. There, I've said
They made in
it. Anyway,
1971.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, we got the
So as you
Schultz
can see,
Brothers store. Oh my God,
yeah. What, you know him?
Yogi Schultz? Of course I
Yeah.
know him. He sponsored the
There you go.
podcast for a month and then he didn't pay. Nah, Yogi's cool. He was like, "What?
He is.
I'm sponsoring a podcast with 6 listeners? That's not a good investment."
Well, we've got 8 on the video already. So
So tell us a little
But we're
bit.
on video too.
We're
yeah,
everywhere. We're totally multimedia. We're in VR. We're on VR on VR. VR on video. VR on the radio. I cannot think that this is great. But Joe, describe it for the people on the
yeah.
radio. We
Anyway,
have stores here. What are they selling?
these sell the best of vintage in Second Life. We've got fashion, we've got cars, we've got furniture, we've got some amazing stuff, and we really looked everywhere. Sonata Morales, of course, has her flagship store here, which is amazing and very big.
Oops, let me. What is
The best.
Sonata Morales making? What is she making again?
She is the most famous vintage fashion designer in Second Life. She makes stunning 1920s, 30s, 40s, and 50s outfits. Really, really amazing.
I don't. I'm camming around. I can't see the store.
And
Go
it's
there,
all the way
please.
at the vent.
Let's go there.
It's, okay then, this way.
Arjun,
Keep
it
up.
just occurred to me while we're talking about events and stuff like that. I think
Hmm.
Joe, without admitting it, she basically built a stationary event. It's like a 24/7 event of awesome 50s, 30s, 40s, 50s vintage stuff. Maybe that's her
I
plan.
guess it is. Yeah.
Oh.
Right, here we go. Let me see if the voice is activated in there.
Blah, blah, blah.
Oh, this is a nice department
Ooh,
store, is it?
Sonata Morales. She certainly moved up in the world. Here we are in front of Sonata Morales' flagship store. I mean, I can tell you if you're just listening on the podcast and not seeing these visuals, I can tell you that the Macy's Day Parade this year on Thanksgiving will maybe have to be renamed to Sonata Morales Day Parade. I have very little frame rates here, but describe the store, Joe. Joe, describe the store, please, for our podcast listeners. What do we see? What are we getting? Joe, can you hear me? Joe can't hear me.
Oh,
No,
I
there's an
did see
issue
her
with
voice open.
there's an issue with voice in the parcel.
I see that voice is
Hear me
disabled
now?
here.
Oh, here we go.
I can hear
No.
you. Joe,
Yes,
describe
yes,
the
sorry.
Uh-huh.
store.
Well, it's a
Sure.
massive Art Deco palace, and it sells. Well, you can see here the most fantastic historical dresses. It is really superb. High fashion. There's a French word for it, but I forgot.
Haute
Haute
couture or
couture.
something.
That's the
Uh-huh.
word. Haute
Uh-huh.
couture, n'est-ce pas? Que j'ai vu, je peux t'en vu.
Yeah.
And well, this is if you're in Second Life, especially if you're a woman and you want something vintage, this is where you go because this is just
And you
amazing.
want something
Shoes,
glamorous. I mean,
accessories, yes,
you're
yes. Not not
listening,
not for me. Someone as common, a
right?
common
A,
barmaid
a
like that.
common, a
So
commoner
hallucinant.
barmaid. Listener, you're listening and watching the Drax Files infomercial hour. Now streaming live from Sonata Morales. You get dresses. You get what do you get? You get handbags. What else does she
Shoes,
make? Shoes,
hats. It
hats.
is. You can get a complete outfit here, a wardrobe.
Now, we did you mention earlier that your plan for the time portal sim is also events? Are you going to be doing
Yes.
things like you're doing with 1920s Berlin,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
talk about that in the context of keeping a sim going, keeping it
What we've got
interesting and all that.
what I do is I find people who enjoy organizing these things, and then I let them use the place.
Hmm.
They don't have to pay, and they can bring their own chip jars. So for them, it's very interesting because they can have fun and make a bit of money.
Hmm.
And it brings people to the sim who hopefully also do a bit of shopping, take a landmark, and return.
Hmm. Arjun just left us. He went to the men's
I was
clothier, Swank
shopping,
Brothers.
sorry.
No problem. Just don't
Yeah.
grab anybody's you know what. And here it goes
So
back.
yeah,
By the
that's
way, sorry, Joe. Where do we go
yeah.
here? Because here it seems we didn't come from this direction, but here's another
No,
portal-looking thing.
yeah.
Is that the way
Well,
back to?
that time portal takes you to 1920s Berlin sim.
Oh, everything
Voice
is
is
connected,
deactivated
huh?
there. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
So
DeLorean.
yep, the
Yeah, there's a
DeLorean is
DeLorean. So everything is
flying through.
connected.
It's
So
the
you have that
fusion.
connected. But then, of course, the rules still apply.
Yeah, don't
Um,
go through it.
of period just
There's
because
no voice is not activated there.
right. We're gonna stay right here because this is the end of the broadcast, folks.
Okay.
We're over an hour, and this is a nice, beautiful. I'm gonna actually take a photo of this very moody uh, scene. And folks, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Again, this has been a special, interesting experiment where we're basically streaming the podcast. We're streaming the podcast live on YouTube Gaming, and then because we're completely lazy, and we're going to put the
Yes,
unedited show on the
you
podcast on
are.
Saturday. Actually, I am. No, but thanks for listening and enjoy the show. And please leave your comments about specifically about what do you think about the sim closures. Do you have a magic bullet? Is this a natural shakeout? How will the advent of Sansar accelerate this shakeout, soften it? Let's discuss this in the comments. And next week we'll have a special guest about education in virtual worlds. So tune in for that one. It won't be exclusively about newfangled technology and hardware. It will be about the nuts and bolts of education. This is obviously a favorite topic of mine. And then the week after that, I can already tease that we're going to do an exclusive um,
Ooh.
Drax files from Co-Spaces in Munich, which we briefly mentioned with Rob a couple weeks ago. Co-Spaces is a virtual reality startup. They're building a world maker tool, which is very cool, very simple. Reminds me a lot of Second Life. Not as expansive and vast as of yet metaverse style, but it's a good start. So I'm actually visiting them in their headquarters, in their physical headquarters, and getting an exclusive tour. So that's
And
that.
it's in Germany.
It is in Germany.
It's
Germany's
the
a.
BMW of virtual worlds.
You got it, Arduin. We we not only make BMWs, we also
Okay,
make
it's the Trabant.
So the next German Reich is going to be virtual, is it?
Heute Second Life, morgen das ganze Welt. Okay, have a great weekend, guys, and goodbye.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Goodbye.